September 5th, 2025. Pre-opening disasters. Teachers all over the building are preparing for the first day of school on Monday. Dawn, Melissa, and Liz are working in the office together, making sure everything is organized and tidy. Craig is in his classroom writing down some anchor charts. Susan and Hillary are working on last-minute classroom decor. Tanya is working on her seating chart. Carla is organizing her classroom supplies, and Carole is reorganizing her students' desks. The school is still technically closed, but the building is buzzing with early arrivals, last-minute prep, and simmering tension. Michelle and Cara walk into the office. They look tired and on edge. "Dawn," Cara greets him with a tight smile. "Can we have a word?" Dawn's expression shifts from annoyed to frustrated, already feeling his workload increase. He takes a deep breath and nods, gesturing towards his office door. "Come in, let's make it quick," he says briskly, stepping aside to let Cara and Michelle enter his office. Dawn closes the door behind them, his eyes immediately darting to the laminator in his office. "Let me guess," he says. "The laminator is broken." Cara gives a sheepish nod. "Yeah, it is. It's been stuck on this weird setting, and now it's just making a weird noise every time we press the button," she explains, gesturing towards the machine that is indeed making a strange whirling sound. Dawn rolls his eyes, frustration evident on his face. "Of course it is," he mutters under his breath as he walks over to the machine, examining it closely. He taps a few buttons and shakes the machine gently, but it stubbornly remains unresponsive. "Great," he mutters, running a hand through his hair in irritation. "So, what are we supposed to do now?" Michelle shrugged in confusion. Dawn let out a sigh, his annoyance growing by the second. "I don't know," he mutters as he bangs the side of the laminator for good measure. Despite his efforts, the machine is stubbornly unresponsive. "This day is just getting better and better," he mutters sarcastically. As Dawn is considering his options deep in thought, there's a knock at the door. "Hey, Dawn," Liz called out. "The copier is jammed," she says, frowning. Dawn's expression shifts from annoyance to outright irritation as he turns to face Liz. "Of course it is," he mutters under his breath, before addressing her directly. "A copier jammed too? This is just great," he grumbles, his hand rubbing his temples. "We've got a broken laminator and a broken copier. What's next? The projectors?" "Don't jinx it," Michelle chuckled. Dawn lets out an exasperated sigh. "Right, because today hasn't been bad enough already. Let's not tempt fate," he says sarcastically, a hint of irritation in his voice. He looks over at the broken laminator and then back at Liz. "What's the issue with the copier?" he asks, already mentally prepping for another headache-inducing problem. "Someone's laminated seating chart is jammed in there," Liz says, pointing over to the machine by her desk. Dawn groans and rolls his eyes. "Are you serious?" he asks, his frustration growing with each passing second. "Why the hell would someone laminate a seating chart?" He gestures for Liz to step aside and moves over to the copier to inspect the problem. "Well, we are teachers, Dawn. The seating chart is supposed to be laminated and hung up on the wall. I don't know why someone was trying to copy it, though," Michelle says. "Well, whoever did this is getting punished." He swallowed hard, trying to bang into the machine. Dawn's expression hardens as he continues to bang on the machine, his irritation growing with each failed attempt to dislodge the laminated sheet. "This is ridiculous," he mutters, his grip on the machine tightening. "Whoever did this better have a damn good explanation," he snarls, his tone sharp. "I mean, what kind of idiot tries to copy a laminated sheet?" Dawn grumbles. He gives the machine another forceful bang, but it refuses to yield. "This thing is just not letting go." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps approaching distracts Dawn from his battle with the copier. He turns to see Melissa standing nearby, a hesitant look on her face. Dawn's expression softens slightly as he sees Melissa's uncertain expression. "What is it?" he asks, his voice still carrying a hint of irritation, but curious nonetheless. Melissa takes a deep breath, clearly bracing herself for his reaction. I might know who jammed the copier," she admits sheepishly. Dawn's irritation gives way to curiosity, his eyebrows raising in surprise. "You do?" he asks, his tone intrigued. He gestures for her to continue, eager to hear who the culprit is. Melissa nodded slowly. "Yes, I think so. I was just in Craig's classroom, and as I was walking out, I saw a bunch of seating chart pages in the trash," she sighed. Dawn's jaw clenches as he hears Melissa's words. "Craig's classroom," he mutters, his tone turning cold. "Of course it's him." He rubs his temple again, the stress of the situation weighing heavily on him. "I swear, that man is a walking disaster," he grumbles, shaking his head. "It's true," Melissa nodded. "One time he tried to fix his projector with a butter knife. That man is brain dead as far as I'm concerned." Dawn snorts softly in agreement, a small smirk forming on his face. "Yeah, he's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed." He shakes his head, the image of Craig trying to fix a projector with a butter knife clearly in his mind. Why doesn't he just call the IT department? He asks, more to himself than anyone else. Because, Cara sighed heavily, he always tries to convince everyone he can fix his own problems, do everything by himself. In fact, he sounds a lot like you. Very ambitious, it seems, Cara says, pacing around the office. Don snorts at Cara's comment, his ego taking a jab. Please, I may be ambitious, but I know when to ask for help. He retorts defensively, leaning back against the wall. I wouldn't be stupid enough to try to fix every problem on my own, like Craig. He huffs out a small grunt, his pride slightly bruised. One more disaster, and we're gonna have to push our opening day a week back, Don says under his breath. I've got everything prepared for Monday, and I really don't want to have to push things back, he sighs heavily. The weight of the situation hangs heavily in the air as everyone in the room nods grimly in agreement. A week delay would be a logistical nightmare, and Don knows it. He runs a hand through his hair, his frustration and exhaustion evident. I know, Liz murmurs, her voice heavy with stress. We need to figure this out, and fast. As everyone continues to brainstorm and debate different options, Don's eyes land on Melissa. She's been silent for a while, observing the chaos with a look of deep concentration on her face. He notices her expression, sensing there might be something forming in her mind. Melissa, Don says, his tone catching her attention. You look like you have an idea. Melissa jolts back to attention at Don's words, her gaze shifting to meet his. She takes a deep breath, her mind working a mile a minute to pull her thoughts together. Well, she starts hesitantly, her tone uncertain. I do have an idea, but it's a bit unconventional, she admits with a small grimace. As the tension in the room thickens, Melissa takes a deep breath and speaks up, her voice still slightly hesitant. I was just thinking, she starts, drawing the attention of the others. Maybe we could call the neighboring schools, Pembroke or even Shelter Rock, and see if they could lend us a laminator or let us use their copy machine, she suggested carefully. A flicker of hope sparks in everyone's eyes at Melissa's suggestion. The idea of reaching out to the neighboring schools for an aid seems like a potential lifeline in their dire situation. Don, despite his usual stoicism, can't help but acknowledge the wisdom in her words. That's actually not a bad idea, he nods, his expression slightly impressed. It's better than sitting here and watching that damn copier jam for another hour. Cara and Michelle exchange a look of slight surprise and approval, impressed by Melissa's quick thinking. Even Liz, who has been silently watching the whole ordeal, cracks a small smile. I agree, she says. It's worth a shot. Don turns to face Melissa, his expression a mix of gratitude and respect. Melissa, you might have just saved our asses, he says with a small huff of exhausted laughter. Where have you been all this time? Michelle chuckled. Melissa smiles warmly. I'll go ahead and make some phone calls then, she suggested. Don nods in agreement, his faith in Melissa's abilities growing with each passing second. Go for it, he says with a small, appreciative smile. Let's just hope those schools are feeling generous today. He mutters, his eyes briefly drifting back to the still jammed copier. What should we be doing before the meeting? Michelle asked. Well, the meeting isn't for another hour or two. I would suggest making sure everything is set up in your classrooms. Just make sure everything is prepared, Don nodded firmly. Michelle and Cara headed back to their classrooms to finish their classroom preparations before tomorrow morning. Don continues, thinking for a moment. Well, I guess there's only one person I can think of that can help us here. Liz, would you do me a favor and tell Margaret I need her assistance in the office, please? He nods again, slowly. I'll be right back, Liz says. She folded her hands together as she walked down the hall and into the library. Liz makes her way to the library where Margaret, the head librarian, is likely busy at work. She pokes her head into the vast room, searching for the older woman. Margaret is in the back of the library organizing the computers. She hears footsteps and immediately turns around. Oh, hey Liz, she stood up and brushed off her dress. Hey, Liz says softly. Don wants to see you in the office. We have a situation on our hands. Margaret lets out a weary sigh as she hears Liz's words. Of course we do, she mutters under her breath, a hint of frustration in her tone. Despite her initial irritation, she knows that Don wouldn't call her without a good reason, so she straightens her dress and pats her hair down. All right, let's go see what the crisis of the day is, she says, following Liz out of the library. As they approach the office, Margaret can hear the sounds of frustrated conversations and exasperated sighing as she braces herself for whatever chaos awaits them. As they reach the door, Liz gestures for her to enter. Don's inside, she says, her expression a mixture of weariness and resignation. God-fucken-damnit! Don screeches, slamming the top of the machine. Oh, hi, Margaret. He clears his throat, trying to regain his composure. Margaret raises an eyebrow at Don's outburst, her expression a mix of amusement and concern. Well, I see we're starting this afternoon with a bang, she says dryly, crossing her arms in front of her chest. Liz stands silently behind her, trying to stifle a smile at Dawn's temporary loss of composure. Not having a good day, Dawn starts off. The laminator is broken for one thing, and our copier is jammed because some idiot tried to copy their laminated seating chart. Craig, he murmured under his breath. Melissa's in my office trying to coordinate with other schools for favors, and I figured I should call you in here because you're good with tech and might know how to fix this all at the last minute. Dawn nodded, stepping away. I can take a look at it, Margaret insisted. I'm not sure about fixing it, though, but I'll try. Dawn runs a hand through his hair, his frustration evident on his face. I swear, I'm one more problem away from pulling my hair out, he grumbles, stepping away from the copier to give Margaret some space. He trusted her abilities and knows she's their best chance at solving the issue. Without wasting any time, Margaret rolls up her sleeves and gets down to business. She steps up to the copier, her eyes sharp and focused as she assesses the damage. Meanwhile, Don paces around the office, his impatience and frustration clearly visible. He steps out of the office for a moment, his head spinning as he tried to contain his thoughts. Liz remains silent, her expression a mix of sympathy and concern. She can only imagine the stress Don is under, dealing with one problem after another with the clock ticking closer to the opening. Liz headed back to Don's cubicle where Melissa was sitting at the desk. Any luck? Liz says, sitting down in front of her. Well, I explained the problem to Pembroke and told them we're getting it assessed right now. They said if we can't fix it on our own, they're willing to give us an extra laminator, Melissa says, folding her hands on the table. Oh, well, that's nice of them, Liz says under distress. Did you call Shelter Rock? Yeah, and no one's answering. I've tried 3 times already, and I'm losing my patience. Melissa sighed deeply. Wait a second, Liz says, standing up for a second. Margaret, don't you have an extra laminator in the media center? Yes, I do. However, it's media use only, she says, looking back at Liz. So, you're not willing to lend a hand and let us use it? She asked, tapping her hand on the desk. Well, I guess if I can't fix it, I'll have to give it away, yes, she nodded slowly. But you all have to be gentle with it. I've had students break my laminators before. I don't need you and Don shoving shit in there and jamming it up, you know? She sighed. Liz nodded in understanding, appreciating Margaret's willingness to help despite her initial reservations. Of course we'll handle it carefully. We're not looking to cause further damage. Just then, the sound of the front door opening and closing could be heard, followed by the familiar sound of Don's footsteps as he returns from his silent break. How's it going in here? He asked, trying to sound casual despite the ongoing chaos. Liz sighs, gesturing towards Margaret, who is still working diligently on the copier. Margaret's doing her best, but it's not looking good, she reports with a slight grimace. Pembroke's gonna let us borrow their laminator if Margaret can't fix it, Melissa says, giving an update. I can't reach Shelter Rock, though, she grimaced. Lovely, Don says sarcastically under his breath. I'm willing to give you my media-only laminator, Don, but you have to be careful with it, and treat it like a newborn baby. If I can't fix it, I would rather not bother another school. We need to use the resources and tools we have within the school, she nodded slowly. Don listened intently to Margaret's condition, his expression one of gratitude mixed with a hint of determination. Of course, we'll treat it with the utmost care, he assured her vehemently. We appreciate your gesture, and I'll make sure everyone who uses the laminator understands the importance of treating it gently. He glanced at Liz, who gave a subtle nod of agreement. All right, we shouldn't waste any more time, Don says. I'm heading to the library to set up for this afternoon's meeting. Liz, grab my computer and meet me in there, he nodded, heading out of the office. Liz nodded, grabbing Don's laptop and following closely behind him as he headed out of the office. She made sure to shut the door behind her, giving Margaret space to continue her work undisturbed. Don and Liz made their way silently to the library, the weight of the day's challenges hanging in the air between them. Don's mind was swirling with thoughts of possible setbacks and worst-case scenarios, but Liz could tell he was trying to stay composed. Once they entered the library, Don placed his laptop down on the nearest desk and let out a weary sigh. I swear, I just want this day to end already, he murmured, rubbing his temples. Well, we're almost there, Liz says softly, giving him some needed reassurance. What is this meeting going to be about? Well, I'm hoping this meeting won't go on forever. The teachers are aware of what they're supposed to be doing today to prepare for Monday. Along with the teacher check-in, I've asked everyone to take inventory on supplies and furniture, and I mostly just want to help them with any questions they may have, Don explained. We will go over semi-boring topics such as overall school expectations, goals, and important resources. Pre-opening day is basically when the teachers are asked to have everything prepared before the first day of school. That way we can be organized for when opening day comes, Dawn says. Liz listened intently, nodding in understanding as Dawn explained the purpose of the meeting. She could sense the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, and her heart softened in admiration for his dedication and commitment to the school and its teachers. That sounds like a comprehensive plan, she said softly, a small supportive smile on her lips. And it's important to address any questions or concerns the teachers may have right before the school year begins. Right, Dawn agreed. It's better to get everything out there, and any concerns or problems need to be addressed to me immediately. It's a little different than our last meeting, more interactive, I would say. Liz nodded again, her own mind racing with thoughts about the upcoming meeting. Yes, I can see how it'll be different. Interactive meetings like this can be very beneficial for the school community, and it's good that the teachers can openly voice their concerns and address any issues immediately. She looked up at Dawn, her expression showing a mix of admiration and slight concern for his well-being. But, are you sure you're up for it, Dawn? You seem pretty stressed already. Dawn couldn't help but chuckle lightly at Liz's concern, appreciating her genuine care for him. I've got this, he said with a weary smile, his voice tinged with a hint of confidence. I may be a bit stressed, but I can handle it. It's just that everything seems to be going wrong all at once, you know? He lets out a small sigh, running a hand through his hair. Liz's expression softened, and she reached out to place a comforting hand on his shoulder. I know, Dawn, she said warmly. But remember, you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's okay to ask for help when things get tough. She gave his shoulder a gentle squeeze, hoping to elevate some of his stress with her words and touch. While Margaret was deeply engrossed in her work, Melissa was sitting nearby, quietly watching the progress. She fidgeted nervously in her seat, her leg bouncing up and down as she patiently waited. Every now and then she glanced at the clock on the wall, checking the time and making mental notes of the passing minutes. She fidgeted with her pen, twirling it between her fingers in an anxious manner, and occasionally glanced at Margaret's focused face. After setting up their classrooms for a couple hours, Michelle, Cara, and Tanya all meet for a chat in the teacher's lounge before the meeting. Cara sighed heavily as she sat down, her body weary from the day's preparations. I swear I've never been this exhausted before school even starts, she murmured, rubbing her eyes tiredly. Michelle nodded in agreement, sinking into a cozy chair. Right? I feel like I haven't had a moment to catch my breath since yesterday. Tanya chimed in with a wary smile. At least the rooms look halfway decent now. I just hope this meeting goes smoothly. All of a sudden, Liz walks into the room and a heavy silence washes over the girls. Hey, Liz, Cara says, breaking the silence. How's it going in the office? Could be better. Don's stressing about everything last minute. I'm trying to tell him to keep his cool. Margaret is trying to fix the copier, and she says she's allowing us to use her laminator until ours is fixed. Liz sighs, pouring herself some coffee. The girls nodded sympathetically, understanding the stress and chaos that surrounded them. Cara spoke up again, sipping her own coffee. Good old Don, always the perfectionist. Tanya chuckled softly. I swear, he expects everything to be flawless. At least we can use that laminator, though. Don wants to start this meeting as soon as possible, so when you guys are done with your break, just meet us in the library. I'm heading into the office to grab some paperwork for him, and then I'm paging everyone to the library, she informed them. All right, Cara said with a nod. We'll be there soon. Michelle checked her watch. Better get a move on, then. I hope he doesn't try to change anything on me at the last minute, Liz sighed loudly. He's so nervous for no reason. I'm sure he just wants to end the day on a good note and mentally prepare for tomorrow. It'll be his first year with collaboration. He'll do fine, Cara says reassuringly. Liz rolled her eyes. You're probably right. Still, he doesn't have to be so uptight about everything. Michelle chuckled. That's just Don. He's always been intense. Cara nodded in agreement. He definitely takes on a lot more than he needs to. It's like he thinks the weight of the whole school rests on his shoulders. Exactly, Liz agreed, her expression concerned. I just hope he knows his limits. Michelle sipped her coffee, a thoughtful look on her eyes. He's always been like that, she said softly. Driven, ambitious. Tanya leaned back in her chair, her eyes thoughtful as she joined the conversation. And a total workaholic. The girls sat around the table, chatting and sipping their coffees. After some time had passed, Liz spoke up. I think I should go check on Don. He's probably buried in paperwork by now. Good idea. We'll be in the library shortly, Cara says. Liz nodded and stood up from her seat, her coffee cup half finished. All right, see you guys soon. She started making her way out of the lounge, her footsteps a quiet whisper on the carpeted floor. Want to go take a puff before we head into the library? Michelle asked Cara. It had been a while since they took a smoke break on school grounds. Cara grinned. Sure, I need something to chase my coffee down, she chuckled. Tanya, you want to come with us? Michelle asked, standing up. Nah, you guys go. Enjoy. I actually gotta head back into my classroom for a second. I'll see you both at the meeting, she nodded, sipping her coffee. With that, Cara followed her out of the lounge and back into her classroom to grab her cigarettes. Don was still in the library, hooking up his computer to the projector and getting situated for the meeting. He lined up the chairs neatly in front of the podium in the middle of the room and set up his computer on one of the tables. Liz returns to the office, checking in on Margaret and Melissa as she made her way to Don's desk. Hey, how's it going in here? She asked as she stepped in the doorway. Well, Margaret cleared her throat, I have some good news. I think I fixed the copier, but I'm not sure if it will be a permanent fix. I used a pair of tweezers to get the paper out and a cooling fan to prevent it from overheating. I did some hacking at it and managed to remove the remaining jammed papers, she says, patting the machine. Liz takes a glance over at the machine and opens the front lid. Margaret held up a piece of paper that looked to be the diagram for the module classrooms. There were ink splatters on the paper now slightly melted along the edges, and the paper had been folded up like a lasagna. This is what was stuck in the machine? Liz rolled her eyes. The stupid diagram for the module classrooms that Don thinks he's installing? What the hell? She murmured. I know, Margaret nodded slowly. I don't know why he thought it would be a good idea to copy heavyweight cardstock. He must have been in a rush. There's no other way to explain that. God, and look at this! He's got 2 unsigned vendor contracts for the new cafeteria supplier. I didn't even know about this, Liz says. Well, so much for informing you, Margaret chuckled. When is the meeting starting, anyways? Don wants to start very soon, I'm assuming. I was supposed to grab some paperwork off his desk, but I got a bit distracted, Liz sneered. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you showed up a bit early. Yeah, I'm gonna head over there now. I'll let him know the situation with the copier, Margaret nodded, standing up. Thanks for your help. We really appreciate it. I'm sure Don wouldn't have known what to do if you weren't here, Liz spoke up. Oh, yeah, it's no problem. I don't mind helping. I'll get you guys the media laminator to use for now, Margaret says. She heads out of the front office and down the hall back to the library. Liz sighs and returns to Don's cubicle. Melissa is at his desk, typing away. Hey, she says, waving. Hey, Melissa, Liz says. She heads over to the filing cabinet in the corner to grab the paperwork she was looking for. Don wants everyone in the library as soon as possible. I'm sure he wants to get this show on the road now. No more interruptions, Liz informed her. Oh, yes, of course. I'm just glad to hear we got the copier problem solved. I still didn't get a hold of Shelter Rock. I thought this day was a pre-opening event for the whole district. Surely they can't be closed, right? Liz face-palmed. Oh, no, they can't be. Yeah, this is a very important day for all the districts in our state, especially the cities in this county. They've probably just been busy. I wouldn't harp on it too much. Margaret is looking into another laminator for us, and she's allowing us to use the media center one for now. We've got it figured out, Liz told her. Oh, thank God, Melissa sighed loudly. I'm glad to hear everything is back on track. I mean, I haven't even spent that long in this office, and things were already going wrong, she chuckled. Yeah, I hear you, Liz gave a weary smile. I guess you really haven't adjusted to this position yet. Liz and Melissa walked back to the library chatting about first day jitters for tomorrow. When they returned, Don ordered Liz to page the other teachers to the meeting. Margaret stood at the front of the room, helping him prepare.